Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Waikit Lau, the CEO of RemoteHQ. Good afternoon, Waikit.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm well. I'm well.
Yeah. So can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Sure. I've been in the technology industry for the last 23 years. I'm based in Boston, have been mostly in the Northeast and the East Coast of the United States. I've spent most of my time mostly in small companies. I've started 3 companies. RemoteHQ is my 3rd company, but I've also worked in larger companies like Cisco, the IT department of Merrill Lynch, as well as venture capital firms such as Bessemer Venture Partners.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. So what has been your experience with remote employment, both as an employee and an employer?
You know, my remote work experience stretched out probably about 10 years ago. In my last company, we peaked at around 500 people globally, around 12 offices. And we felt the need to hire remotely outside of Boston, New York, and San Francisco, the core offices. And so we ended up having offices all around US, but also in Europe, in London, and in Asia, in Singapore. A lot of it was just driven by the fact that we felt that we had to go where the talent is. And it was really difficult to compete for talent in all the major cities in the US. So we did it. And that was the beginning of a learning curve in terms of how do you scale remotely, how do you manage remotely, how do you reward and send folks remotely.
Yeah, no, you're right. There are skills involved in that, and a lot of people are learning them as we speak, correct? So
absolutely.
On that note, what do you think is the future of remote employment? And I think I know what you think can be done differently to make it better and more effective since your product does that.
You know, I would call it, we're seeing maybe it's the second wave of the remote push, right? I think even before COVID-19, in the last few years, we've been seeing a slow and accelerated drum beat of companies, both big and small, realizing that they need to have a remote strategy, right? If you are a company, and I say this primarily in the tech space first, and I'll talk about the non-tech space, but certainly if you're in the tech space in the last 5 to 10 years, and you're in San Francisco, Boston, New York, Seattle, any of the major tech hubs, I think what you'll see is you start competing for talent against the Googles, the Microsofts, the Amazons of the world. And a lot of companies just find that a uphill battle, right? And they ended up realizing that eventually at some point that they need presence elsewhere, whether in other US cities that are less competitive, but with equally good talent. Or they realize that they have to go internationally. Again, similarly with equally good talent, but underserved. So we've seen a lot of that in the last few years, right? I think what COVID-19 has seen, what we've seen with COVID-19, with this pandemic is certainly everyone is forced to go remote. And I feel my suspicion is that once we are past the worst of the pandemic, I think a lot of companies, big and small, will realize that they have made remote work somehow, and it could work for everyone.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We at Gaper certainly believe in that. So normally at this point, I'd ask you, what's the story behind your startup? But we're talking on a alternate platform from yours. I won't plug anybody. And the only reason we're not using yours is this is what I'm familiar with. But I know you've set up a conference between you and me. So why don't you take over and show people what your product does?
Perfect. Let me screen share a product right here, and I'll explain. All right. And Mark, let me know if you see it on your side. And
I do see it, yes.
Perfect. So first of all, our product is entirely web-based, browser-based. There's no software to download, no software to install. Literally 2 clicks, you are in our product. It's very easy to use. Number 2, our product acts as a virtual workspace for teams, right? So if you think about what a lot of people are going through today, which is all the collaboration modalities that they can do in a physical office, they can't do them anymore virtually, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
think about, in a physical office, people talk, they see each other, but they also sit next to each other, they brainstorm, they whiteboard, they go over websites, web applications together, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're almost an infinite shade of gray in terms of how people collaborate in the physical office. Right? Now, today, when everyone is virtual and everyone is on Zoom solves the being able to see and hear each other problem. Right? Great, absolutely needed and absolutely fundamental. Zoom also is able to do screen share, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the extent of virtual collaboration today. If you think about the Zooms, the WebEx, the Google Hangouts of the world, right? And if you even take a step back even further, this idea of video conferencing and screen share is a 30-year-old invention. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That has never changed. Which, if you think about it, it's a little interesting and insane at the same time that the internet has kind of zoomed past many innovations in the last 10 years, and yet we're still stuck with screen share and video conferencing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started RemoteHQ, we wanted to push that envelope and to say, if you were virtual, what more can you do beyond video conferencing and screen share? So this is what we've done. So this is a virtual workspace that you can see our avatars on the right-hand side. Now we have video conferencing embedded, so we've turned that off right now in lieu of Zoom. But if you're using us and you want to use video conferencing, you just turn it on. But that's not what makes us special. What makes us special is that I can bring different applications into my workspace. So what are some of the applications? So let me spin up one. I'm spinning up an application called Shared Browser. And what Shared Browser is a virtual browser in the cloud that I can spin up with one click.
Mm-hmm.
And I've pointed it to Trello.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, Mark, if you and I were colleagues and we were collaborating over Trello, what do we do today over Zoom? Well, we can screen share. I can screen share my Trello tab to you, and we go over Trello cards, and that's fair and fine. But the problem is, it's not really true collaboration because you can't. I mean, as we go through our Trello cards, you can't say, "Hey, Waikit, let's." I think the load testing isn't exactly done yet. Let's bring it back. You have to tell me to bring it back from done to in progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the difference. With the shared browser, you can have control. So
Shall I
you
try
can
it?
control this. Of course, please.
Grab what do I grab?
So you can grab anything, you can change anything. This is just a dummy Trello board. So no need to, so if you see this, do you see the Trello board up in front?
Yes.
Perfect. So you can grab any one of these and move them around. You can edit. You can edit any of this. So it's as if you are in charge of the Trello board.
July 20th, 2019. That's my birthday.
There you go. So what we've essentially done here with this shared browser technology is we have essentially made every website and every web application instantly collaborative without any download and without any code changes.
So this is purely browser based.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've made any website, any web application, a lot of websites and a lot of web application are not inherently collaborative, right? We have essentially made every single one of them behave like Google Docs.
Very interesting. Cool. Yeah, and Google Docs is a nice product, but it's not an enterprise product. It's not.
Right.
It's right. It's really a way to share things with people.
Exactly. So another app I can add is I can open up a Notes app here, and and so this is just a notepad, nothing special, right? But the idea is if you are in the same virtual workspace with someone, with your colleagues, you can be working, going over a Trello board or a Jira or Confluence or Jira or GitHub together while you're taking some notes here. And the idea here is that instead of switching back and forth between browser tabs or the applications, you can just do everything here.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about this is that you can persist. So these apps, if you have recurring meetings such as weekly or daily stand-ups, you can just persist all these apps by toggling this button here. And what that means is that the next morning when you and I come back to this room, this URL, this two apps, our notes and our website will appear.
So it's kind of like if we put this on a whiteboard and assuming nobody erased the whiteboard, it would still be there.
You got it. Exactly. You tell the cleaning lady, don't erase this because you're going to need this tomorrow morning. You come back and you pick it back up where you left off. So what is the net? The net is that we save teams like hours of overhead, right? The what I call the hell of, hey, who took the notes from last week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just there. To think of all the times I actually did write on a whiteboard, do not erase.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I mean, speaking of whiteboard, we have a whiteboard app as well, and there we go. We can add this on. So again, we facilitate multimodal collaboration, right? I mean, when people collaborate deeply, they don't just talk and see each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do stuff together, and that's what we want to facilitate. And the great thing about our UI and our technology is that it's all configurable. So I can drag and drop. Each one of this is a tile. I can resize. I can drag and drop these as you see fit. So
you take them on and off, but they're still there.
Exactly. So if this was a video tab, I mean, if we have video conferencing enabled on our platform, I would want to see you. So I'll drag you out here, and you would have a video tile here, and I might drag this out here and split the screen a little bit. So it's very flexible.
Wow, that's really interesting. Well, that certainly was the most unique explanation of a company's product that I've done.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, think of us as an all-in-one virtual workspace, and all the things that you used to be able to do in a physical office, you can do here in this virtual office, if you will.
Wow, this is great. So why don't we'll go back to the regular part of the podcast now. How did you incorporate the idea of remote at your company?
So today, we designed it from day one. So when I left my last company 7-8 years ago, I took a sabbatical and ended up teaching some classes at MIT. But when we started this company, RemoteHQ, a few years ago, we decided from day one that we're going to make it remote from day one. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've seen with companies pivoting to becoming remote is that most companies start their life as non-remote, right? You have an office, maybe you have a second office, maybe you have a couple of guys who are remote, but they account for 5% of the workforce. I think the challenges we've seen in those classical cases have been the remote employees feel like they are second-rate citizens, second-class citizens, right? Mm-hmm. They miss out on a lot of the things in the office and the like. So we basically said, let's just start all remote. Everyone is on the same level, so no one feels like they're second-class citizens. So I think a lot of challenges companies see today around remote is really around organizational and potential process and workflow, right? So when we started being remote, we basically said, let's just nip it in the bud. Everyone is remote.
Very interesting. And it's weird. It's kind of a chicken or the egg, because you're building a product to help people work remote. Well, it's kind of and then you have to eat, basically what they say, you have to eat your own dog food, right?
That's what we do. And we ended up becoming our first customer because, we're building the plane while we're flying and
it's kind of a interesting challenge. And it's interesting. The better you make your product, the better your company is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is an interesting dilemma. Wow. So we talked about the current pandemic. Did that cause any challenges that you didn't expect?
No, so because short answer is no, because we have been remote from day one, and so uh, there hasn't really been any major changes in our day-to-day professional lives. I think what we've seen is that we've seen a surge of users coming in over the last few months. One of the things that we did in early March was, as we see a surge of users coming in, and some of them come nonprofit. They've come in and they're like, look, we really like what you guys are doing, but we have no budget, right? Can you give us a way for free? And that got us thinking, how we can help a lot of folks who suddenly are forced to figure out how they can work remotely and virtually. We decided to open the entire platform, make our entire platform free. So, so now anyone can come in, use our entire platform, all you can eat for free until August 1st.
Oh, great.
So that's probably the biggest change that we've seen. And since we have implemented that, we've seen, a lot of companies and organizations, big and small, coming in to use us as a way to stay connected, but more importantly, as a way to just get stuff done.
That's very interesting. That's very nice, actually. Hopefully, a lot of companies take you up on that. Has that caused any bandwidth problems?
Not so far. We do have to scramble on our back end to make sure that we can accommodate, all the inbounds. And luckily, our tech team is phenomenal, and they've done a great job in terms. So there hasn't been any hiccups. So.
Well, that's great. So there are companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for companies like yourself. How important? I mean, obviously, you think this stuff's important because that's how you operate, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So, Waikit, this was really fascinating, and I actually I'm going to sign up and I'm going to start playing with this because I do a lot of remote stuff, and I think I can see the value in this. So I want to thank you for your time today.
No, thank you, Mark, for your time. Appreciate you taking time out.
All right, and have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.